So appreciate you joining the Improve Group today for this webinar on our senior consultant role. We have some senior consultants from the Improve Group joining us, and we're going to get started. We hope that this webinar today will be helpful in determining your career path as we move forward. So our agenda for the day covers several topics here, but basically we're going to talk about who we are at the Improve Group, what we do, the consulting team that does the work, and then in particular focusing on that senior consultant role. So I hope you stay with us, you find this information engaging and helpful in the choices you make. Want to introduce ourselves to you right now. There are three of us from the Improve Group, plus Dan is in the background doing all the technical stuff for us. So thanks, Dan. My name is Marcia. I use she, her pronouns. And at the Improve Group, I support the growth and development of our consulting team. In other organizations, you might view my role as a supervisor, but at the Improve Group, my role is more of a coach, a guide on the side. I'm based from my home office in St. Paul, Minnesota. I've been with the Improve Group for over 2 years now. And prior to that, my career was mainly working for nonprofits and NGOs. And I was drawn to evaluation through asking and being asked really hard questions about program impact, and decided that maybe I needed to do that firsthand. Carissa.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Carissa Propson. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I am a senior consultant at the Improve Group, and you will learn a lot more over the course of the next half hour about what that means. So I won't say much. I am based also in my home office here in rainy Madison, Wisconsin. And I've been at IG for a little over 3.5 years and had been in the field of evaluation about 6 years. But my background prior to that was in academic research, as well as a kind of educational background in social work. And I came to the field of evaluation definitely as an accidental evaluator, but really love to see how those two fields and research and social work come together. And I really see evaluation as a way to marry those two fields. And I continue to be drawn to this work as a way for me to be curious and to ask questions, and then get the opportunity to actually work toward answering those questions in a meaningful way. So I'm really happy to talk with you today, and I'll turn it over to Nick.
Yeah, thanks. Good afternoon, all. My name is Nick Stilp. I use he, him pronouns, and I am located in Minneapolis. What brought me to the field of evaluation is a healthy combination of sheer luck and also a desire to help programs and organizations just increase their impact. I had no idea what evaluation was as I was applying for graduate school. When I got into my program, it was focused on industrial and organizational psychology. And I was required to take one evaluation course just as part of the curriculum. And in that mandatory class, I was hooked almost immediately, mostly just due to the fact that evaluation, their methods and frameworks are extremely applicable and valuable to just about any type of work. So it didn't take me long to pick up that second concentration. The sheer luck piece comes in when I started applying for jobs right away. Most of them were IO psychology related, but I did get a call back from the Improve Group, and the rest is history. That's how I landed into evaluation, and I've been here for about 5 years, just a little bit longer than Carissa.
Yeah, and if I recall, Carissa and Nick, you both started as associate consultants, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yes,
That's
indeed.
right.
Yeah. So one of the things we'll talk about a little bit later is our support of advancement, promotion, career tracking at the Improve Group. But we're going to dive a little bit slightly deeply into the Improve Group and how we operate, what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. So we basically help organizations use information to solve problems, navigate complexity. And we're hoping that by doing this, that we're helping those organizations ensure their resource investments lead to meaningful impact. Why we do this? Well, we want to support mission-driven organizations tackling important social justice work that leads to more resilient, equitable, and thriving communities. And the how we do it, we provide evaluation, research, facilitation, and strategic planning services. But importantly, these services, we want them to amplify the voices of underrepresented communities. So ensuring that actions that are taken based on our work are aligned with community needs and represent what the community wants. So that's a little bit about how we operate. And underneath that is a set of values that we bring to our work and how we engage with each other. These core values include thoughtfulness, excellence, collaboration and inclusiveness, innovation and creativity, joy, and building a better world. I see these values in play daily. Thinking today about a few of these, I see joy coming up in how we approach the projects that we choose to work on. There's a process where our consultants are engaged and provide input into the selection process. So there's joy in being able to be a part of that decision making. I see innovation and creativity every day as we customize our approach to each client. And embedded in that then is this notion of continuous learning for us all as we kind of lean into new approaches with our clients. And then I see collaboration and inclusiveness in the diverse partners that we use to expand our expertise. I see us also leaning in to others such as community representatives that walk alongside us and ensure that those community voices I talked about earlier are amplified and heard. So that's just a little bit about who we are, how we operate, and what undergirds our work. Another key foundational commitment we have is to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We believe that we need to work every day on DE&I in order to address how systemic and historical oppression can and does show up in our work and workplace. We devote time and resources to this work. We raise awareness, both internally and externally with our clients. And we nurture an environment that attracts, develops, supports, and retains employees from diverse backgrounds. Now, for our work, we define equity in this way. Equity acknowledges existing injustices and recognizes those structural factors that have unfairly advantaged some and disadvantaged others. This wrong requires intentional, thoughtful, and just remedies that we try to integrate into everything we do. Now, we've set our bar high, and in so doing, we continue to learn from where we fall short. We know this is a continuous journey for us. So you've gotten a sense of the improved group, who we are, what we do, the values we have, and the importance we place on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So next up, Nick is going to describe more specifically the project work that's done here at the Improved Group from a senior consultant perspective. Nick.
Yes, thank you. So there's no doubt that it's the clients and the type of project work we do that really keep the Sunday scaries at bay. I can honestly say that I love my job and don't loathe Mondays. And that is in big thanks to our project portfolio. So as Marcia mentioned previously, we work with a ton of government agencies, both local and state, nonprofits, foundations, and other mission-driven organizations. And with that client base, it's easy to imagine that it's not too hard to find meaning in the day-to-day work. But simply put, at a higher level, like we're working with our clients to provide them with information that informs strategic decisions, improves their program design and implementation, and really deepens their work towards creating healthy and equitable communities. Now, it's not always that straightforward, right? There's quite a bit of nuance in the type of projects that we have. So I want to kind of explain some of the main pillars and give a couple examples. First and foremost, we have evaluation, which is our bread and butter. In these types of projects, we're going to work really closely in collaboration with our clients and key stakeholders with a community responsive approach to identify those evaluation questions that are important, develop and refine theories of changes and logic models, and really establish evaluation plans, tools, and processes. What's interesting is that you don't really know where within the life cycle of the evaluation process that a particular project is going to land. So it could be that we are on the front end and we're just developing an evaluation plan for a grant that someone else is going to carry out. It could be the case that we're more in the middle of the process. We're doing developing instruments and doing data collection, and then we pass that data off. Or perhaps we're on the end of the evaluation cycle and someone else has collected all the data. It comes our way. We analyze that data and develop those reports, come up with those insights, have the data visualizations, and really come up with those recommendations. I will say the majority of the time we're there for the full spectrum. So we're going to be there from start to finish. And what will change is the focus. So it could be on process and implementation, or perhaps it's more on the end of impact. So we're looking at measuring outcomes. But regardless, it keeps everything interesting because there's a lot of variety. Even more variety when you start thinking about the sectors and fields that we work across. So you don't know if your project is going to be in early childhood development, education, prevention, housing, public health. It goes on and on. But that's what's nice kind of about the role in the project types is that it keeps things interesting. No 2 days are the same. Outside of evaluation, so I talked about those other pillars, right? We do provide other services such as needs assessment research, some policy work, and quite a bit of strategic planning and facilitation. I myself have found a niche at the Improved Group to do quite a bit of strategic planning and facilitation. So for example, on this slide, you're seeing me work with Minnesota Department of Agriculture, doing some process mapping for their food and safety inspection process, making sure it was as efficient and accurate as possible. So many projects I could talk about, so little time. So I'm going to pass it over to Carissa to talk through a little bit about who we are as a team.
Thanks, Nick. So here on the slide, you can see our wonderful consulting team. And one thing that I love about the Improved Group is that I really do get to work with all of these folks on different projects and in different ways. All of our projects here use a team approach, and all of our project teams have various configurations. So if the project team could range in size, who specifically is involved in the project, and then the role that that person actually plays. It is all variable. Again, as Nick said, no 2 teams are the same, no 2 days are the same. One thing that is consistent is that our projects are all led by a project lead who is either a managing consultant or a senior consultant. And that lead oversees the team of a larger team of consultants working on the project. And team members are added to the project based on the project needs and scope. along with what we know about our consulting team's interests. So what Marcia alluded to earlier around kind of assessing interest in different projects, the team's availability and capacity to take on new work, and then their current skill sets, as well as their plans for where they want to grow and develop more skills. So really trying to balance all of those things to get the perfect team who's going to be able to work together to do the project well together and grow while they're doing it. The consulting team is kind of our core project team members for the most part, but we certainly do bring in expertise and add to our teams through partnerships with other consultants, community representatives, which Marcia also mentioned, or even subcontractors at times to add more capacity when is needed. And I also want to kind of flag two folks on this slide here. We are all supported. The consulting team is lucky to have our Becky Stewart, our Chief Practice Officer, and Marcia, who's here with us today. Those two roles are really important for us in providing additional support and expertise through coaching and project-specific guidance, or really helping us in our project work, as well as supporting our growth as professionals, both individually and as an organization. So they kind of lead that charge as well. I also want to flag that we are supported as well by our wonderful marketing and administrative experts. So Dan, who is here today, and more, and they provide such invaluable support, things like proposal writing, other marketing efforts, all the administrative pieces of our project work that help move things along. And even though they're not shown here on this slide, they're really valuable members of our overall IG team, and they do help make our roles as consultants easier as well. So it's definitely a group approach for sure. So now that I've just said a little bit about what our teams might look like, I'll turn it back over to Nick to tell you more about this senior consultant role in particular.
Great, yes, thank you. I might be a little bit biased, but I do think the senior consultants have the best of both worlds. So as an associate consultant, you're going to be on a lot of project teams, carrying out a lot of project related tasks, doing some legwork. As a managing consultant, you're going to be leading a pretty large portfolio of projects, staying at that higher level, doing a lot of project management. But we get the sweet spot, right? So as a senior consultant, you are responsible for leading a small handful of projects. So that entails, holding that client relationship, developing and maintaining the budget, and really guiding your team through the project from start to finish. It's great, but I do want to note that there are levels within the senior consultant range. So you're starting at level 1 often, and then you move up in levels. And as you advance, 1, your compensation advances, but 2, your responsibility advances as well, right? So you're going to be leading more complex projects and more projects as you work up that ladder a little bit. Not technically a ladder, because we're a pretty flat organization. We have a lot of autonomy, but you do want to build those skills and abilities. So by the time you reach that managing consultant level, you know how to project manage a large portfolio. So outside of project work, looking at bullet number 2 there, which is enhance the improved group practice that continues to evolve and adapt. Our expertise is around data-driven decision-making, organizational development, strategic planning. We don't want to give all that support only to our external clients. We kind of want to put a mirror in front of the improved group and make sure that we as senior consultants are ensuring that internally we are continuously improving and adapting to the ever-changing environment in which we work. And what that includes could be participating in consultant shares, which is an organizational-wide professional development process that we have. It could be just engaging in the all-staff monthly meetings and just ensuring that we're not only focused on improving our clients' work, but we're also focused on fostering a healthy culture and building on our own practices. Last but not least, our role is to represent the improved group positively in social professional networks and among former and existing clients. So over the last 20 years, don't know if you've heard of IG or not, but we have an amazing reputation, both in the field and among community members. So as senior consultants, it's our role to uphold that reputation and make sure that we're continuing to build partnerships and broaden that network, not only in our project work, but through other avenues such as conferences. So yeah, I'd say those are probably the three main roles of a senior consultant. And if that role sounds interesting, which I hope it does, I'm going to pass it over to Marcia to talk a little bit more about who we're hoping to fill that role.
Thanks, Nick and Carissa. So who are we looking for? Well, not necessarily an expert in the evaluation field. If you recall our introductions, Carissa even called herself an accidental evaluator. So the journey to the field of evaluation takes many forms, and it's not necessarily a straight line from graduate school, although that is one path. So we're open to folks that have had experiences in other fields that align with evaluation practices. So in general, you see on this slide that we're looking for some combination of these attributes, not necessarily all of them. So I would ask you to kind of look at this and see where are you seeing yourself in these descriptors. We're looking for someone who's curious, equity focused, organized, and has an affinity for data. We use data quite a bit. Experience working within or alongside various nonprofit and public sector organizations. Knowledgeable about social and community issues, it manages budgets, works collaboratively, understands and can hold that client relationship. I'm not going to read through all of these. They are in the job description that's posted on our website. But I do ask, don't use this as a checklist. And if you end up not having all of these qualities, you still may want to apply, because there are various combinations of what this job looks like and the skill sets you need to have to be successful. All right, I know we're getting on time, so Dan, let's go and talk about some of the more specifics of the position here. So typical starting level salary, and you heard Nick describe those various levels of senior consultants. So to begin, 65 to 70,000. There is advancement. I think both Carissa and Nick talked about this. So there's room for growth and deepening skills and acknowledgement of that through salary increases. And there is a career path from associate consultant, senior consultant into the managing consultant realm. And I think for many of us, that's a really important understanding to have, that you're entering IG at one position, but it doesn't mean that's where you'll need to live for the entirety of your tenure here. A couple of other things I'd like to point out. Again, all of this is on the website, but we offer a flexible work environment. It includes unlimited paid time off, a flexible work schedule, and a hybrid model that allows employees to work remotely. Carissa's in Wisconsin. Dan and I happen to be in Minnesota, but we've really expanded our understanding and thinking about where we need to be to do the work. And finally, we're really committed to organizational learning and collaboration. We're committed to both individual growth, development, and advancement. That's really cooked into how we operate. All right, and to round things off, let's talk a few details here. So applications opened are due June 13th. They're open right now. So get your application in by June 13th. It's pretty simple. It's an online form and submit your resume. You don't have to wordsmith a lovely cover letter. You can do that, but basically it's a resume and the online form. We'll start screening and doing some additional information gathering by June 17th. We're hoping ideally that the week of June 27th we'll have interviews. Decision July 8th or so, with a hope for target date of August 1st. Things get a bit more iffy as you go along based on how we can set up interviews and decision-making processes and life in general, but that's the hoped for schedule. And there's the address for applying for this position, which we truly hope that you will contemplate and do. We are nearly at time. I know if you have to sign off at 5 o'clock, that's great. But we will open it up for some question and answer time right now. And Dan, I don't know if there's anything in the chat that has come up, or maybe we've been so stellar in our presentation that all questions have been answered.
Yeah, we have the first question in the chat, Marcia, is, are all evaluators math people? And math people's in quotations.
No, definitely not. I think that's even where I had explained my niche in strategic planning and facilitation. So yeah, I'm still data minded. But do I love sitting behind R and doing a ton of analysis? Not necessarily my cup of tea, but that's where we build as a team. We do have people who are brilliant in R in that analysis. And that's where we design per project who's on each team. So if there's not like a high quantitative data need, then we won't need to bring on Patrick or someone else into the team. So evaluators have a bunch of different skills and not all of them are math driven.
Great. Then we have two more questions that are very similar, and it's if somebody is interested in more than just the senior consultant role, so maybe associate and senior, or senior and managing, they want to know if they should submit two applications, two separate applications, or if they should apply for one, and talk a little bit more about that interest in some way.
Sure. I'll jump in and try to tackle this one. I would suggest that you review the job postings for each of the positions and apply for one that seems to fit the best. I will tell you that there are times that I'll go in and I may send a note out to Carissa. You applied for associate, we filled all those positions there, and I see you actually have 2 years of experience working as a consultant. I'm wondering if you might be interested in an entry-level senior consultant position, and would suggest you go ahead and apply for that. So we'll attempt to give you some directional feedback if the fit isn't right, or if there aren't positions open. I will tell you that I'm in the process of closing down our associate consultant position right now, just being transparent. We just will be hiring 2 new associates and have made offers that have been accepted. So that position won't be open, and we probably won't open up another associate round until sometime early next year.
Great, then we have another question, which is what service, capacity, or other gap at the improved group would this position fill? And then a follow-up question is, how did this position become available?
Okay, can you repeat the first question, Dan? I'm sorry.
Yeah, what service, capacity, or other gap at the improved group would this position fill? Okay,
so you heard sort of the primary responsibilities of leading projects and filling particular roles on projects. We're always looking for a mix. As Nick described, we need some of those people that are math oriented, but we don't need 15 consultants that all want to play with data. So, we're always looking for a nice mix. I wouldn't say that there is a specific role we're looking for at this time. We do expect and want folks that have some equity-focused experience in some way, and that is explained in more detail on the website. We're really looking for a balance of, folks that have worked with a variety of communities and populations and kind of understand how to bridge and be a part of a community conversation, but in a culturally responsible way.
Great. And then another question in the chat is, do senior consultants have one primary manager or managing consultant, or are there multiple managers that a senior consultant connects with regularly?
I can jump into this one. No, we do not have one primary manager, managing consultant. As Marcia said in the beginning, she is in the probably most closest role to a kind of a supervisor, although that's not exactly what her role is. Otherwise, all of our project teams have different leads, whether that's a managing consultant, another senior consultant. It's a mix. So no, we don't just work with one.
And then, Marcia, there was a follow-up on the, you had mentioned that the associate consultant position may be closing. Someone asked, what about the managing consultant?
Yeah, good question. And thank you for reminding me of that. So we keep the managing consultant position kind of open all the time because it is a very challenging position to find the right combination of experiences and skills to be successful at the Improve Group. And what I will try to be clear about what I mean by that. We have a unique approach to project management that is needs some time for it to get embedded. So to jump into managing large complex projects at the Improve Group without having some experience with the project management approach, it's difficult to come in and be successful. And so it's really important for us to make sure that we are setting the stage for your success. So I'm not saying don't apply for it, because that's why it's always up there. We're trying to find that needle in a haystack that, and you might just be that needle. So go ahead and apply for that position. And typically we'll do a quick screening and give you some feedback related to your qualifications. And then of course, the senior consultant, we are looking for a senior consultant to join us. I think there was a question earlier, Dan, about why the position was open, something to that effect. We've had a couple of staff members that have gotten really quite wonderful offers elsewhere, which happens. At the Improve Group, we hope that your career path is one that you want to stay with us for the long haul, but we also know that there are other great opportunities out there, and we want to be supportive in you growing into whatever career path you choose.
So another question in the chat, and this might actually be a me question, which is, what common traits would describe an organization that the Improve Group aims to serve, and what percentage of clients are public sector versus nonprofit? The reason I'll say this might be a me question is Carissa mentioned earlier that from our marketing team, we help with proposal development. So our team kind of oversees our opportunity process. And I would say that we really look at a number of factors when it comes to deciding the clients that we kind of submit our services for. That might include like the where the client is based and whether we have experience there, what kind of relationship we have, or what kind of connections we may have. and a number of different things. But I'd say one of the driving factors that we guide our decisions around these days is whether the prospective client is making some impact towards equitable or towards equity in their community work. And so a lot of organizations are coming to us saying, like, we've been kind of doing things this way. We don't know if it's equitable to the community that we're working with. And that is something that we're often seeking for the organizations that we work with is we want to help them make that advancement. And then what percentage of clients are public sector versus nonprofit? This is, I would say that this always ebbs and flows. The number of projects that we have is always changing. Generally, we aim for a 50-50 split between kind of public versus nonprofit and foundational, but that can definitely change at any given time. Then the next question in the chat is, what is the typical length of a project engagement and how many projects are part of a senior consultant's portfolio at one time?
I can catch that one with the good old "it depends," but a little bit more helpful, like right now where I'm sitting is I'm on a total of 7 projects, leading 3 of them. Some of them are pretty small, some of them are a little bit larger, so it can range from 3 years where we're working for ATOD, doing prevention work with grantees, and that's a 3-year grant cycle, to a quick 9-month project of strategic planning. So it really does vary, but you kind of manage, like, you don't want it to be spread too thin, so you don't want to be like, I'd say 7 you try and cap out around, but some of the projects I'm working on right now are pretty small. So it opens up space for me to work on some of those more deeper engagement, longer term projects as well. So create that balance, but it's always shifting.
And there's a question that if someone looks overqualified on their CV, but wants to get back to being more in the work, would that be a barrier to hiring?
No. I think if you talk to several people at the approved group, they would probably say, I don't know if overqualified, but, having different responsibilities that for larger organizations at one time, and then kind of circling back to wanting to, kind of focus on serving clients. And I think, draw a picture for us. In that instance, you might want to do a bit of a cover letter or re-engineer your resume so it's clear that you're looking for something that's more in the weeds than like a chief executive officer, for example.
So there's just 2 more questions in the chat. We'll get to these ones and then wrap up today. And the first one is there an ability to be fully remote?
My first answer is yes. And I think Carissa is an example of that. But I will tell you that within that, there's this, gee, it'd be great if we could meet 3-dimensionally. So I think what I would say is that we always hold out hope that we're going to be able to gather at some point in person. And then there's also the, yes, remote, but depending on the client, you may need to be at the client site for particular work. So it gets a bit complex to answer that question with just a yes or no. It's a hoped for outcome. And Carissa, I don't know if you want to share your experience so far.
Yeah, I was just kind of trying to do the math. I've been remote, or I've been in Wisconsin for about 9-10 months now, maybe even a little bit longer. I've been back to the office one time, seeing people in person. To your point, Marcia, I'm going to be traveling to meet Nick in DC for some client work. And I do plan to be back at least one time in the summer for maybe a retreat or something like that. So I have generally not been back in the office, and the vast majority of my work is remote, but I do like the option to get back there and say hello to everyone in person.
Thanks, Carissa.
Great. And then our last question is, what are some of the specific professional development opportunities available?
I think this looks in a lot of different ways, depending on what your specific desires are for your professional development. There are some standards, kind of the American Evaluation Conference. We usually send a chunk of folks to that. I know we have a colleague going to a conference on well-being and social justice. There's also smaller opportunities, kind of one-off trainings, or from anything from data visualization to specific methodologies to a more conceptual training discussion, like around evaluation practices or something like that. I've done some reading and personal reflection for professional development. And really we get to design what that looks like with Marcia's help to kind of decide what it is that works best for us in order to grow our professional development, or our profession, I guess, in the way that we want to, and the career path that we'd like to see, as Marcia was saying earlier.
Yeah, I just add on that I've been really impressed with the focus on professional development at IG. So it's very intentional that we carve time out in our capacities to make sure that we are dedicating our time to professional development. And that's also Marcia's role. So you're literally meeting on the regular, talking about what are your professional development goals, putting together some indicators, a plan. We've got a budget, and each consultant has a certain amount of money that they can spend on professional development however they see fit. So I think that's been a huge aspect of the Improve Group, and just feeling like I have full autonomy to develop my career in the way that I see fit, which has been great.
All right, folks. Well, thank you for sticking with us. Hope the longer Q&A session was helpful to you. You will see on this slide there is an email address. If you have additional questions, you can send them there. Really want to direct you to our website and the career page that has information on how to apply for the position. Wish you well in your career journey, and looking forward to finding ways that our paths will cross in the future. Want to thank Nick and Carissa and Dan for helping organize this webinar and carry the message of the Improve Group and what we do and how we do it. So thanks to all.
Have a good evening,
everyone.